That, if you don't know, is Congressman Barry Loudermilk. He's a Republican from Georgia. And it was at yesterday's hearing on the GameStop saga. Joining us to discuss whether there's a need for federal regulation, Arthur Brooks, AEI President Emeritus. He's also with Harvard University. He's also a contributing writer with The Atlantic and a host of the podcast, The Art of Happiness with Arthur Brooks. Thanks for joining us, my friend. And before you became kind of the Archbishop of, like a secular Billy Graham. I'm trying to have a secular Billy Graham for all of us. What are you exactly now? But before all that, you wrote eloquently and thought very deeply about conservatism and capitalism. Not necessarily conservatism, but maybe more libertarian, more small government, personal freedom. All that brings, I guess, in your view, self-actualization and maximizing your potential. Have I got that right?
Yeah, you got that right. I mean, in point of fact, the only reason that I care about, I guess, conservative principles, but the things that the three of you have always talked about and care about together is that globalization and free trade and the American-style free enterprise system has pulled 2 billion of our brothers and sisters out of poverty over the last few decades and can pull more billions out of poverty as well. So if you care about poverty and you care about dignity and you care about brotherhood and you care about love, then you actually need systems that are going to give people equal opportunity. And the free enterprise system is the best system that's ever done it and the best system that I think that ever will.
Right. We're going to talk GameStop, but in fact, it's so eye-opening, a lot of the things that you wrote, that a young Andrew Ross Sorkin, and I'm talking green behind the ears, and this is years ago, because it's his birthday today, Arthur. I know you know that. He's an old man now. But remember, I paid him $1 a page to read one of your books, just to expand things. And then he charged me for the index and the appendage and all those things. He charged me $1 for all those.
Because he's a capitalist, Andrew. I just admire that.
He is, and he's kind of an elderly capitalist after today. But
well, he's still got his hair. With that kind of hair, I could be president. That's unbelievable.
Right. I know, he's lucky. Both of us are envious of that, but you don't do anything about it. No, mine's real. Hey, Arthur, get to what is the lessons we learned about free markets, capitalism, all the things that you opine about watching that hearing yesterday and the whole saga. How do you view it, and what needs to be done, if anything?
Well, I see a lot of sort of irony and hypocrisy, particularly when I'm watching a congressional hearing about trying to protect the little guy from himself or herself. I mean, the idea that the democratization of the tools of capitalism and letting people make their own market decisions can lead to really bad outcomes. And I'll take them seriously when government stops selling lottery tickets that have an expected value of 40 cents on the dollar. It seems to me that these government officials don't like predation unless they're the predators against the little guy. So, I mean, I take it with a huge grain of salt, quite frankly.
The remedy would be what? I assume that you don't think we need to immediately start pulling the regulatory cards out and dealing them all over the place in terms of the financial markets. But was everything that happened okay?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's what you see is a whole lot of people actually posturing to show how much they care, and there's a whole lot that we don't know. So to begin with, I think it's a reasonable thing to say that until we understand the nature of whether markets were manipulated and what laws were broken, it's a pretty good idea to try to put new regulatory ideas on pause. But if you're actually posturing to show how much you care, of course, then you're going to get the cart before the horse, and that's exactly what was going on yesterday.
The way Wall Street is viewed, do we need to do anything with that, Arthur? Where did Wall Street go wrong? Where did capitalism, which Wall Street is kind of a proxy for, when did it go off track, just PR-wise, or are there serious problems that engender a lot of populist feelings against the whole system?
Well, capitalism has to protect itself every generation because the free enterprise system brings incredible wealth and opportunity and growth and good lives to people, but it's counterintuitive. I mean, the whole idea that everybody can win is a very counterintuitive notion. It goes against literally how the human brain is wired. We think in terms of zero sum. And so the result of it is that we can't take it for granted that the free enterprise system is under attack in every generation for people who just don't believe it can be true. And Wall Street has never done itself very many favors. The insensitivity that it actually brings in the way that it talks about markets, the way that it talks about or the way that it appears to favor the big guy over the little guy. It needs to police itself much better, and not just in terms of communication. It needs to pay attention to the fact that if you're, day trading is a really dumb thing to do, because you're basically sitting down at a poker game with expert poker players and you're about to lose all your money. It's the best way to take a bunch of money and turn it into a little bit of money. And so at least moral suasion and more transparency in the idea of telling people more that this is a bad idea. That's in Wall Street's interest to actually do that, so that we don't keep running into these populist problems.
So the fast traders and the algorithmic traders, the arbitrageurs, the short sellers that meet at the Yellowstone Club and decide to gang up on a stock. Is all that okay? Should it be regulated? Is it what?
No, I don't. No, it's not okay. I mean, the manipulation of markets and manipulation of stocks, what that's trying to do is to create asymmetric information, which is a market failure. And we do, in point of fact, have a lot of regulations against that. They're just not very clear, and they're not very well enforced. And they're not very well understood, as a matter of fact. So what we need to do is to make sure that that kind of market manipulation is clearly prohibited, and that there's enough transparency in the regulations that we can enforce them. But having more hearings for more, piling on new regulations when we don't even enforce old regulations, that's exactly the way that public policy tends to get made when we're in theater, as opposed to actually trying to protect people from market failures.
We had John Hope Bryant on, and there may be a little bit of a gap between, what you need to know to do this effectively and what a lot of people do know. And there's nothing that retail traders hate more than being, the perception that they're being talked down to.
Right.
But the democratization via Robinhood and all these platforms is great. But is there a way to, I don't know, that Graham and Dodd, sort of maybe a more long-term perspective can be emphasized so that, we start dealing with, people trying to save for the future, for their family, for retirement, and not gamify everything with a GameStop sort of a scheme?
I'm not sure that we can, and the cure might be worse than the disease, Joe. I mean, the whole idea of saying, look, gamifying is a bad thing to do. Everybody knows it's a dumb thing to do. It's a great way to lose your money. But in the same way, people make all kinds of decisions that are not intelligent necessarily, and the freedom that people actually have has value per se. I mean, giving people the freedom to make their mistakes, that can be important as well. Protecting people constantly against themselves and their own worst impulses. What should Wall Street do? Wall Street should be more transparent about talking about the facts, about how bad this can be for you, as opposed to setting up platforms where people can more efficiently lose their money. But at the same time, making something, giving somebody advice is very different than making something illegal. Because freedom per se is actually one of the most sanctified values that we have in our society. So my view is that this should be a much more of a voluntary, transparency-oriented communications endeavor. And we should be moving away from trying to lard on new regulations to protect people from themselves, even when they make these mistakes.
Hey, Arthur, you also a lot talked about the dignity of work, it's sort of in a philosophical way, and how that's happiness. You see people that win the lottery and they're not happy. You see people that have a job and make a X amount of money and they're happy. I mean, some of this gamification might be coming from all the money sloshing around, whether it's stimulus, whether it's a Fed, whatever it is. If we crossed over the point of too much enabling with stimulus, and are we in danger of doing even more?
Well, we're in danger anytime that we move away from a system in which people are earning their success. Now, I understand the philosophy behind the stimulus, very, very well. But once we actually start seeing empirical evidence that people are day trading using funds that are coming from the government itself, and then the representatives of the government criticizing the day trading, I mean, once again, the government is creating a self-licking ice cream cone of regulation. It's a real problem. I'm going to give you money. It's going into your savings. You're going to day trade with that money. You're going to lose the money. We're going to feel bad about it and hold hearings about regulating it so you can't do it anymore. This is pretty ridiculous stuff. I mean, the truth of the matter is, what do people want? It's pretty simple. People want dignity. People want dignity that comes from earning their success and serving other people. That's what you get through honest work. You don't get it through lottery tickets. You don't get it through inheritances. You don't get it through government stimulus checks. You get it from honest, ordinary, decent work. And that should be the ultimate goal of what public policymakers should be talking about.
Right. I don't know. I think we need to cancel that bullfight shot behind you just on humane. That's a risk for you. If you're comfortable with it, all right. But it just occurred to me that that bull is probably not going to end up doing too well at the end of that situation.
That bull
there,
may have won that fight. I'm married to a Spaniard, so it's okay.
Okay. Okay, then that's right. And in Barcelona and the French horn and all that in that other life where you did a lot of this contemplating. Obviously, always love having you on, Arthur. And
thanks, Joe.
Any book that you've written, people can get a lot out of it.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for
I
being
appreciate
with us
it.
this morning. And Andrew, the birthday boy, got a lot out of the book when he read, especially the appendix, Andrew, and all the index pages and. Dollar page.
Oh, it's a good book. Even better when you get paid to read it. When we